The small repair booth sat wedged between a noodle vendor and a shop selling gravity boots. Daniel Reed wiped down his workbench for the third time that morning, a habit born from years of fixing delicate equipment. Around him, trading post-gamma, Seven hummed with the usual chaos of 1,000 different species trying to conduct business in the same cramped corridors. A four-armed merchant argued with a crystalline being about shipping rates. Somewhere nearby, someone was cooking food that smelled like burnt rubber mixed with cinnamon. Daniel had learned to ignore most of it. His corner of the station was quiet, predictable. People brought him broken things. He fixed them. They paid him. Simple that he had moved to this trading post 2 years ago, looking for work far from Earth's crowded repair centers. Out here on the edge of charted space, a human with steady hands and patience could make a decent living. The aliens didn't care that he lacked fancy certifications. They cared that their equipment worked when he was done with it. Daniel was soldering a connection on a damaged data slate when he heard the sound. It was small, pitiful, like a kitten mewling in distress. He looked up and froze that a creature no bigger than a house cat stood in his doorway. Its scales shimmered blue and silver under the station's lights, and it had tiny wings folded against its back. Tears rolled down its snout as it clutched something against its chest with small clawed hands. Daniel recognized the species immediately. Draken, dragon-like beings that most people only saw in news broadcasts or history files. They were old, powerful, and kept to themselves. Daniel had never expected to see one, let alone have one walk into his shop. The baby Draken made that sound again, a heartbroken chirp that made Daniel's chest ache. It toddled forward on unsteady legs and held up what it was carrying. A toy, some kind of mechanical sphere that should have floated and glowed, but now lay dark and cracked in the child's hands. "Hey there, little one," Daniel said softly, setting down his soldering iron. He crouched to be at eye level with the creature. What happened? The baby Draken couldn't answer in words. It just made more distressed sounds and pushed the broken toy toward him. Its golden eyes were huge and wet with tears. Daniel glanced toward the corridor outside his shop. Several aliens who had been passing by now walked quickly in the other direction. A merchant 2 stalls down suddenly decided to close early, pulling down his metal shutter with a clang. That was odd. But the baby in front of him was still crying, and that seemed more important than mysterious behavior from neighbors. Okay, Daniel said gently. Let me see what we've got here. He pulled over a small stool and patted it. The baby Draken climbed up and sat, wings drooping sadly. Daniel took the broken toy and examined it carefully. The sphere was made of crystal and metal he didn't recognize, with circuits that looked like frozen lightning inside. This wasn't some cheap trinket from a vendor. This was expensive, possibly custom-made. The damage was extensive. Whatever had happened, it had cracked the outer shell and severed several of the internal connections. Daniel turned it over in his hands, considering. He had never worked on Draken technology before. Their designs were different from human engineering, built around principles he could only guess at, but broken was broken, regardless of who made it. And a crying child was a crying child. I'm going to try to fix this, Daniel said, speaking slowly and calmly. It might take a little while. Is that okay? The baby Draken sniffed and nodded, watching him with those huge golden eyes. Daniel got to work. He started by carefully opening the cracked shell, using tools designed for human equipment, but gentle enough not to cause more damage. Inside, the circuits were beautiful and complex. He could see where the breaks were, where energy should flow but couldn't. See this part here, he said to the baby, pointing. This is like a tiny river. The light should flow through it like water. But there's a break, so we need to build a bridge. The baby leaned forward, interested despite its sadness. Daniel worked slowly, thinking through each step. Some of the connections he could solder back together using techniques he knew. Others required improvisation. He used wire from his supply drawer, adjusting it to match the thickness of the original circuits. When a crystal component was too badly cracked to save, he ground down a similar piece from a broken comm device and carefully fitted it into place. Time passed. The baby Draken watched every movement of his hands. After an hour, Daniel had the baby hold a small light so he could see better into the tight spaces. The child seemed happy to help, its tears finally stopping. "Almost there," Daniel murmured. He made the final connection and closed the shell, using a polymer seal to hold the crack together. Then he pressed the activation point on the sphere's base. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere hummed to life. It lifted from Daniel's palm and floated in the air, slowly spinning. Lights began to project from it, creating patterns of stars and nebulas that danced across the walls of the small shop. The baby Draken's face transformed. It chirped happily and reached for the toy, which settled gently into its hands. The child hugged the sphere to its chest, then turned and tried to hug Daniel's entire arm, making joyful clicking sounds. Daniel couldn't help but smile. "You're welcome, little one. Take care of it, all right." The baby Draken nodded enthusiastically, then hopped off the stool and waddled toward the door, still clutching its repaired treasure. It paused at the threshold to look back at Daniel one more time, chirped something that might have been goodbye, then disappeared into the corridor. Daniel stood and stretched his back. 2 hours of detailed work had left him stiff. He returned to his workbench and picked up the data slate he had been working on before. Just another day at the shop. Outside, hidden in the shadow of a loading dock across the corridor, a massive Draken adult lowered the viewing scope he had been watching through. His scales were deep crimson, marked with gold patterns that denoted high rank among his people. He had seen everything. The adult Draken remained still for a long moment, processing what he had witnessed. Then he turned and walked away, his claws clicking softly on the metal deck plates. He had much to report to the Queen. 2 days had passed since the baby Draken visited his shop. Daniel noticed that something had changed on the trading post, though he couldn't quite figure out what. Other merchants gave him strange looks. Some smiled nervously. Others seemed to avoid walking past his booth entirely. Mrs. Kelvin, the elderly woman who sold gravity boots next door, finally explained it during lunch. They sat together eating noodles from a vendor down the hall, as they did most days. "Word's gotten around," she said quietly, glancing over her shoulder, "about you helping that Draken child." "I just fixed a toy," Daniel said, confused. "What's the big deal?" Mrs. Kelvin stared at him like he had grown a second head. "Daniel, the Draken don't let their children wander alone. Ever. If one did, and came to your shop, that means someone was watching. Someone powerful." A chill ran down Daniel's spine, but he shrugged it off. "Well, nothing bad has happened, so I guess I'm fine." Or, Mrs. Kelvin said slowly, "Something is about to happen." She was right. The next morning, Daniel arrived at his shop to find 6 people waiting outside. Not people, 6 Draken adults, each standing at least 7 feet tall, their scales gleaming like polished metal in the station's artificial lights. Their presence made the corridor feel tiny. Behind them stood station security guards and Administrator Wells, the nervous man who ran trading Post Gamma 7. That Daniel's heart hammered at his chest. Had he done something wrong? Broken some law he didn't know about? Daniel Reed, the lead Draken, spoke in a deep voice that vibrated through the air. His scales were crimson and gold, and his eyes were ancient and sharp. "That's me," Daniel managed to say. His mouth had gone dry. "I am High Consul Dravik of the Draken Sovereignty. We need to speak with you. May we come inside?" What else could Daniel do? He nodded and unlocked his shop with shaking hands. The 6 Draken entered, having to duck through the doorway meant for smaller species. Administrator Wells tried to follow, but Dravik held up one clawed hand, stopping him. The door slid shut. The shop felt impossibly crowded. Daniel stood behind his workbench, unsure what to do with his hands. Dravik studied him for a long moment. "Do you know who you helped 2 days ago?" "A child," Daniel said. "A Draken child with a broken toy. That child was Princess Lissa, youngest daughter of Queen Sereth, ruler of the Draken Sovereignty." The room seemed to tilt. Daniel grabbed the edge of his workbench for support. I didn't know. She was crying. The toy was important to her." "The toy," Dravik said, "was a royal heirloom. It has been passed down through the royal clutch for 6 generations. It projects the star patterns visible from our homeworld on the night each princess is born. It is irreplaceable." Daniel felt sick. "If I had known, I would have been more careful. I did my best, but I'm just a repair tech. I don't have fancy equipment or you misunderstand, Dravik interrupted. His tone softened slightly. The repair was perfect. The toy functions exactly as it should. The princess has not put it down since you returned it to her. Relief flooded through Daniel, followed immediately by confusion. Then, why are you here? One of the other Draken, a female with silver scales, spoke. We are here because of how you treated the princess. I am Commander Shara, head of the Royal Guard. I was tracking Princess Lissa when she wandered from our ship. She slipped past my watch for only minutes, but in that time, she found your shop. I stationed myself outside and observed, Dravik continued. I watched you interact with her. You did not recognize her species or status, correct? No, Daniel admitted. I mean, I knew she was Draken, but I'd never met one before. I didn't know she was royalty. Exactly, Dravik said. You saw a distressed child. Nothing more. You offered comfort before asking questions. You spoke to her gently. You included her in the repair process. You refused payment, though you must have known the toy was valuable. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. It seemed obvious. What else would anyone do? In our culture, Dravik explained, how one treats the young reveals their true character. The Draken have existed for over 12,000 years. We have seen countless species rise and fall. We have learned to judge carefully. Humanity is young, the silver-scaled Shara added. Only 500 years since you left your homeworld. Many elder species dismiss you as reckless, emotional, unworthy of standing among the established powers. Daniel felt a spark of anger at that, but kept his mouth shut. Dravik continued. We have been undecided about your species, but your actions have given us clarity. You showed kindness without expectation of reward. You used creativity and persistence to solve a problem you had never encountered before. These traits are valuable. I still don't understand why you're telling me this. Daniel said carefully that Dravik's lips pulled back, showing sharp teeth. It took Daniel a moment to realize it was a smile, because the Draken's sovereignty wishes to understand humanity better, and we believe you can help us do that. We want you to come to our homeworld as a technical advisor and cultural liaison. The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. What? No, I'm not a diplomat. I fix things. I don't know anything about politics, or exactly, Dravik said. Politicians tell us what we want to hear. They perform. But you, Daniel Reed, you simply acted according to your nature. That is what we need to understand. Not humanity's carefully crafted image, but who you actually are. Daniel looked around his small shop. This cramped booth had been his whole life for 2 years. The thought of leaving it, of going to an alien homeworld, terrified him. But he thought of the baby Draken, of her tears, of her joy when the toy was fixed. If his simple act of kindness could somehow help his entire species. Can I think about it? He asked quietly. Dravik nodded. You have until tomorrow. We will return for your answer. The 6 Draken left as smoothly as they had arrived. Daniel stood alone in his shop, his mind spinning with impossible choices. Daniel barely slept that night. He lay in his tiny station quarters, staring at the ceiling while his mind raced through every possible outcome. By morning, he had made his decision. It scared him, but also felt right. When Dravik returned, Daniel was waiting outside his shop. I'll do it, he said simply, but I have conditions. Dravik's eyes gleamed with what might have been approval. Speak. I keep doing what I do, fixing things. I'm not going to stand around in fancy rooms pretending to be something I'm not. If you want to understand humans, you get the real version. Me, working with my hands, solving problems. Take it or leave it. For a moment, there was silence. Then Dravik's lips pulled back in that sharp-toothed smile. Agreed. Gather what you need. We leave in 3 hours. Those 3 hours passed in a blur. Daniel packed his tools, sold his shop lease back to the station, and said goodbye to Mrs. Kelvin, who cried and made him promise to send messages. Then he was boarding a Draken ship that made every human vessel he had ever seen look like a child's toy. The journey to Draconus Prime took 4 days. The ship moved through space in ways that made Daniel's stomach flip. Draken technology was far beyond human understanding, built on principles that seemed more like art than science. When they finally arrived, Daniel pressed his face to the viewing port and forgot to breathe. Draconis Prime was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Mountain ranges taller than anything on Earth pierced through cloud layers. Cities of crystal and metal spread across valleys, catching the light of the system's twin suns. Massive Draken flew between the spires, their wings casting shadows on the streets below. They landed in the capital city, a place called Highspire. Daniel was given quarters in what they called the Palace District, though his room alone was bigger than his entire apartment back on the trading post. Windows overlooked gardens filled with plants he had no names for. "You will set up your workshop here," Dravik told him, gesturing to an empty room attached to his quarters. "We will bring you items that need repair. You will work on them as you would any other job. Palace residents will come to you. Through these interactions, we will learn." "That's it," Daniel asked. Just fix things, Dravik confirmed. "But pay attention. Watch how people react. Share your thoughts. Help us understand the human way of seeing problems." The next day, Daniel set up his tools in the workshop. It felt strange to arrange his simple human equipment in a room with walls made of something that looked like frozen starlight. But once the workbench was organized and his soldering iron was warming up, he felt a little more like himself. His first customer arrived within the hour. A young Draken with green scales brought him a damaged data device. Daniel fixed it, explaining his process as he worked. The Draken watched with fascination, asking questions about why he chose certain approaches. More came after that. A broken environmental suit, a malfunctioning food preparation unit, a damaged piece of art that needed delicate restoration. Each repair was different, each one a small puzzle to solve. And every single day, Princess Lissa visited. The young princess would toddle in his workshop, sometimes bringing her repaired toy, sometimes bringing new broken things she found around the palace. She couldn't speak Galactic Standard yet, but she would chirp and click, showing him what was wrong. Daniel would fix whatever she brought, talking to her the whole time, and she would watch with those huge golden eyes. Through Lissa, Daniel met other members of the royal family. Her older siblings, curious about the human their baby sister had adopted. Palace staff who needed things repaired. Eventually, even noble Draken from other cities who traveled to Highspire specifically to meet the human technician. Each interaction taught Daniel something new about Draken culture. They valued tradition but respected innovation. They were proud but not arrogant. Family bonds, especially between clutchmates, were sacred, and they took the care of their young more seriously than any species Daniel had ever encountered. In return, Daniel showed them human problem solving. When a Draken engineer insisted something couldn't be repaired because they didn't have the correct parts, Daniel would improvise, using what was available. When traditional methods failed, he would try unconventional approaches, combining techniques in ways the Draken had never considered. 3 months into his stay, a master craftsman named Old Scale brought Daniel a challenge. It was an artifact thousands of years old that had broken during a recent earthquake. The piece was priceless, a sculpture made of crystal and living metal that should have shifted colors with the light. Now it sat dark and still. "It cannot be fixed," Old Scale said sadly. "The technique for creating the bonding matrix was lost centuries ago. I have studied it for weeks. There is no solution." Daniel examined the artifact carefully. Old Scale was right. The original method was far beyond anything Daniel understood. But maybe that was the point. Maybe it didn't need to be fixed the old way. He worked for 3 days straight, barely stopping to eat. He used principles from human engineering combined with what he had learned about Draken technology. Instead of trying to recreate the original bonding matrix, he built something new, a hybrid approach that achieved the same result through a completely different method. When he finally activated it, the sculpture blazed to life, colors flowing across its surface like liquid rainbows. Old Scale stared in silence for a long moment. Then he bowed deeply, something Daniel had never seen a Draken do to a human before. "You have done what I believed impossible," Old Scale said quietly. "Not by knowing more than me, but by being willing to see differently." Word of the repair spread through Highspire like wildfire. The human who saw possibilities where others saw only limitations. The technician who didn't accept that problems were unsolvable. Daniel didn't feel like he had done anything special. He had just refused to give up. But to the Draken, that persistence, that creativity in the face of impossible odds, was something remarkable. It was something human. 6 months had passed since Daniel arrived on Drakenus Prime. His workshop had become a strange kind of meeting place, where Draken from all levels of society came not just to get things repaired, but to talk, to ask questions about humanity, to share stories about their own culture. Daniel had learned more in those 6 months than in his entire life before. He understood now that the Draken weren't simply powerful or ancient. They were cautious. They had seen too many promising young species destroy themselves through war or greed or carelessness. They kept their distance not out of arrogance, but out of pain. They had lost friends before. Today felt different somehow. Daniel sensed it in the way palace staff moved through the corridors, in the unusual quiet that had settled over Highspire. When Dravik appeared at his workshop door, Daniel knew something important was happening. "The Queen wishes to meet with you," Dravik said. "Now." Daniel's hands went cold. He had never met Queen Sereth, despite living in her palace for half a year. She was ancient, powerful, and by all accounts, deeply protective of her people. The thought of standing before her terrified him. "Do I need to change?" he asked, looking down at his work clothes, stained with grease and solder marks. Dravik shook his head. "She asked for you, not a dressed-up version of you. Cool me." They walked through corridors Daniel had never seen before, each one more elaborate than the last. Finally, they reached a massive door carved with scenes of Draken history. It opened silently, revealing a chamber that took Daniel's breath away. The throne room was vast, with a ceiling that seemed to touch the sky. Sunlight poured through crystal windows, casting rainbow patterns across the floor. And at the far end, on a throne made of black stone and silver, sat Queen Sereth. She was enormous, easily twice the size of any other Draken Daniel had met. Her scales were obsidian black, marked with patterns of deep purple that seemed to shift and move. Her eyes were violet, ancient beyond measure, and when they fixed on Daniel, he felt like she could see straight through him. "Approach," she said. Her voice was softer than Daniel expected, but it carried easily across the vast chamber. Daniel walked forward on shaking legs. He had no idea what protocol demanded. "Bow. Kneel?" He settled for stopping a respectful distance away and meeting her eyes, the way he would with any person he respected. Queen Sereth studied him in silence. The moment stretched out until Daniel's nerves were screaming. Then she spoke. "My youngest daughter speaks of you constantly. You are, in her words, the nice one who fixes broken things and tells good stories." Despite his fear, Daniel smiled. "Princess Lissa is a sweet kid. Smart too. She's already learning to use some of the basic tools. You've been teaching her." The Queen's tone was unreadable. "Just small things," Daniel said quickly. "How to identify different types of circuits. Basic safety around tools." "She's curious, and I figured it couldn't hurt." "And you did not think to ask permission from the royal family before teaching the princess?" Daniel's stomach dropped. He had messed up. Of course he should have asked. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I didn't think she would come by and want to help, and it seemed natural to show her things. I should have realized." Queen Sereth raised one clawed hand, stopping him. "I'm not angry. I am curious. You treat my daughter as you would any child, not as royalty, not as a political tool, simply as a young one who wants to learn." "What?" Daniel blinked, confused. "Because that's what she is? I mean, yes, she's a princess, but she's also just a kid who likes fixing things and hearing stories. Treating her differently because of her title seems wrong." The Queen was silent again, her violet eyes never leaving his face. When she finally spoke, her words were careful, measured. "Daniel Reed, do you know why you are truly here?" "To help you understand humans," Daniel said, "through my work and how I approach problems." "That is part of it," Queen Sereth agreed. "But there is more. The Galactic Core Council, the body that governs the civilized galaxy, requires sponsorship from an elder species before a young race can petition for membership. Humanity has been seeking such sponsorship for 20 years. They have been rejected by every elder species they have approached." Daniel's heart began to pound. He suddenly understood where this was going. The Draken sovereignty is one of the oldest and most respected members of the Core Council. The Queen continued. If we were to sponsor humanity, it would carry significant weight. But such a decision cannot be made lightly. We needed to understand what humanity truly is beneath all the politics and carefully prepared presentations. So Princess Lissa finding my shop, Daniel said slowly. That wasn't an accident. The princess wandering off was entirely her own doing, Dravik said from where he stood near the door. She is adventurous and headstrong. But when it happened, I chose to observe rather than immediately retrieve her. I wanted to see how a human would react to a Draken child in distress when they did not know they were being watched. Queen Sereth leaned forward slightly. I ask you now, Daniel Reed, a simple question. What makes your species worthy of standing among the elder races? What makes humanity special? Daniel thought carefully before answering. This was important, maybe the most important question anyone had ever asked him. I don't think we're special, he said finally. We're young. We make mistakes. We're still figuring out who we are and what we want to be. We can be selfish and short-sighted. We fight with each other over stupid things. The Queen's expression didn't change. Then why should we sponsor you? Daniel took a breath. Because we try. When we see someone hurting, most of us want to help. When we see a problem, we don't give up just because it's hard. We're good at connecting with others, at seeing past differences to the person underneath. And we're creative. We find new ways to solve old problems. Maybe we're not the strongest or the smartest or the oldest species out there, but we care and we're willing to learn. Isn't that worth something? The throne room fell silent. Queen Sereth sat back, her violet eyes thoughtful. Then, slowly she smiled. The formal announcement came 3 days later. The Draken sovereignty would sponsor humanity's petition to join the Galactic Core Council. The news spread across known space within hours, creating shockwaves through every major civilization. Daniel watched the news broadcast from his workshop, feeling surreal. Diplomats and politicians filled the screens, discussing what this meant for galactic politics. Some elder species were angry. Others were cautiously optimistic. Everyone had an opinion, but Daniel's role wasn't finished. If anything, it was just beginning. The council will want proof, Dravik explained during a meeting in Daniel's quarters. They will want to see why we made this decision. You will need to attend the formal sessions. Daniel felt sick. I can't do that. I'm not a speaker. Put me in front of a crowd and I'll freeze up. You will not be alone, Queen Sereth said. She had come personally, along with several other high-ranking Draken. We will present humanity's case. But your presence matters. You are the example we will point to. Over the following weeks, Daniel learned exactly what that meant. Ships arrived at Draconis Prime, carrying representatives from dozens of species. All of them wanted to meet the human who had somehow convinced the notoriously cautious Draken to take such a bold step. Some were friendly, curious about this strange species that inspired such loyalty. Others were hostile, looking for any excuse to dismiss humanity as unworthy. Daniel met them all in his workshop, doing what he did best. Fixing things, talking honestly, being himself, an ambassador from the Quillen Collective, a species of insect-like beings known for their rigid logic, brought him a broken computation device. Daniel repaired it while the ambassador watched, asking questions about human mathematical approaches. Your methods are inefficient, the Quillen observed. You waste time on trial and error when proper calculation would give you the answer immediately. Maybe, Daniel agreed, tightening a connection. But sometimes the answer you calculate isn't the only answer. Trial and error teaches me things I wouldn't learn otherwise. And when I hit a problem I've never seen before, that experience helps me adapt. The Quillen was silent for a moment. An interesting perspective. Inefficient, but interesting. Not every encounter went well. A representative from the Torvan Empire, a militaristic species that controlled a significant portion of the galaxy's outer rim, was openly contemptuous. Humans are weak, the Torvan officer declared, his armored form barely fitting through Daniel's workshop door. Your technology is primitive. Your lifespans are short. You have no business among the elder races. Daniel set down the tool he was holding and met the officer's eyes. "You're right about some of that. We are young. Our technology can't match yours. But being strong isn't just about weapons and armor. It's about resilience, adaptability. And yeah, our lives are short compared to yours. Maybe that's why we don't waste time on things that don't matter. We pack a lot of living into the years we have." The Torvan officer sneered and left. But Daniel noticed he didn't file a formal objection to humanity's petition. Through it all, Princess Lissa remained a constant presence. She would visit Daniel's workshop every day, sometimes bringing her siblings, sometimes coming alone. She was learning fast, already able to identify basic components and explain their functions. She had even started bringing him problems she found around the palace, challenging herself to diagnose what was wrong before Daniel confirmed a point one afternoon. Lissa arrived with another young Draken Daniel hadn't met before. The newcomer had pale gold scales and walked with a slight limp. "This is my cousin, Rin," Lissa announced proudly. "He broke his wing last year, and it hurts when the weather changes. Can you fix it?" Daniel felt his stomach drop. "Lissa, I fix machines. I don't know anything about medicine or healing wings." But Rin was already showing him the wing, extending it carefully. Daniel could see the old break, heal but not quite right. The bone had set at a slight angle, creating tension in the surrounding muscles. "I cannot fly as well as I used to," Rin said quietly. "The healers say there is nothing more they can do. The wing has already healed. But Lissa said you see things differently, that you find solutions others miss." Daniel studied the wing, his mind already working. This wasn't so different from mechanical problem. Misalignment causing stress. Compensating forces creating additional strain. He couldn't heal the bone, that was true. But maybe he could help manage the symptoms. "I have an idea," he said slowly. "But I'll need to work with your healers. And it might not work." Over the next week, Daniel collaborated with Draken medical experts. Together, they designed a light brace that would support the wing's weak point, redistributing the forces more evenly. It was a hybrid approach, combining Draken bioengineering with human ergonomic principles. When Ren tried flying with the brace, he wept with joy. It wasn't perfect. He would never fly as well as he had before the injury. But the pain was gone, and his control had improved dramatically. Word of the success spread quickly. Soon, other Draken with old injuries or chronic issues were coming to Daniel, asking if he could apply the same creative problem-solving to their situations. He always insisted on working with proper medical experts, but his unique perspective helped find solutions that pure medical knowledge had missed. Queen Sarah summoned him again, this time to her private study rather than the formal throne room. It was a smaller space, filled with books and star charts and personal items that made her seem less like an all-powerful ruler and more like someone's grandmother. "You continue to surprise us," she said, pouring him a cup of something that smelled like cinnamon and starlight. "You came here to fix machines. Now you are improving lives in ways we did not anticipate." Daniel accepted the cup gratefully. "I'm just doing what makes sense, seeing problems and trying to solve them. That's what humans do." "Yes," Queen Sareth said softly. "That is exactly what humans do, and that is why we were right to sponsor your species. The galaxy needs problem solvers. It needs people who refuse to accept that things cannot be improved. It needs hope." She stood and walked to a window overlooking Highspire. "The council vote is in 2 weeks. Whatever happens, Daniel Reed, know that you have changed how the Drakens see humanity, and perhaps how humanity sees itself." The Galactic Core Council convened on a massive station that orbited a neutron star. The structure was ancient, built by a civilization so old that even the Draken only knew them through legends. Inside its vast chambers, representatives from 200 species gathered to vote on humanity's petition. Daniel stood in a waiting room with the human diplomatic team, feeling completely out of place. Everyone else wore formal attire designed for this exact moment. Daniel wore clean work clothes and carried a small toolkit because Dravik had insisted he come exactly as he was. "You're the evidence," the High Consul had told him. "They need to see what we see." When the Draken delegation was called to present their case, Daniel followed Queen Sareth into the council chamber. The room was enormous, with seating arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to watch as they entered. Queen Sereth spoke first. Her voice carried easily through the chamber, commanding attention without demanding it. She outlined the Draken's observations of humanity, their growth since leaving Earth, their potential for positive contribution to galactic civilization. Then she gestured to Daniel. But words alone cannot capture what we have learned. This is Daniel Reed, a maintenance technician from Trading Post Gamma 7. He is not a diplomat. He is not a scientist or warrior or leader. He is simply a human who does his work with care and treats others with kindness. His actions convinced us that humanity deserves this opportunity. Daniel felt every eye in the chamber fix on him. His mouth went dry, but then he saw Princess Lissa sitting in the gallery, giving him an encouraging chirp. He took a breath and stepped forward. "I don't have a fancy speech," Daniel began, his voice rougher than he wanted. "I'm just a guy who fixes things." But I think that's kind of the point. Humans aren't perfect. We're not the strongest or the smartest. We don't have the best technology or the longest history. But we try. We see problems and we work to solve them. We see people hurting and we want to help. We make mistakes, yeah, but we learn from them. We're adaptable, creative, and we care about connection, about understanding each other across differences. He paused, gathering his thoughts. A few months ago, a baby came into my shop with a broken toy. She was crying. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know I was being watched. I just saw a kid who needed help, so I helped her. That's what humans do. We help. And maybe that's not impressive compared to species that can bend space or live for thousands of years. But it matters. It has to matter. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species seemed moved. Others remained skeptical. The vote would not be immediate. It would take days of debate, political maneuvering, and careful consideration. Daniel returned to Draconus Prime with the Draken delegation, exhausted and uncertain. He threw himself back into his work, grateful for the familiar comfort of solving concrete problems with his hands. 4 days later, the vote came through. Humanity's petition to join the Galactic Core Council had passed, but barely. 87 species voted in favor. 73 voted against. 40 abstained. It was one of the closest votes in Council history. The human diplomatic team celebrated. News broadcasts showed people across Earth and its colonies cheering in the streets. Humanity had finally been recognized as equals among the stars. But Daniel felt strangely quiet about it all. He was happy, of course, proud that his small actions had contributed to something so large. But he also knew this was just the beginning. The hard part would be proving that the council made the right choice. That evening, Queen Sereth visited his workshop one final time. "You seem troubled," she observed. "Just thinking," Daniel said, setting down the circuit board he was examining. "A lot of species voted against us. They still don't think we belong. How do we prove them wrong?" The queen settled her massive form onto the floor, making herself more level with Daniel. "The same way you convinced us. One small action at a time. One repair. One kindness. One connection. You cannot change the galaxy overnight," Daniel Reed. "But you can change the small part of it you touch. And if enough humans do the same, the galaxy will change itself." She stood to leave, then paused. "The Council has requested that human representatives establish a permanent presence on the Council station. They will need technical staff, support personnel, people who can maintain the equipment and help the different species understand each other. Would you be interested in such a position?" Daniel thought of his small repair booth on Trading Post Gamma 7, where this had all started. He thought of the baby Draken who had wandered in with tears streaming down her face. He thought of all the connections he had made, all the problems he had solved, all the barriers he had crossed by simply treating others with respect and care. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "I think I would." 3 months later, Daniel opened a new workshop on the Council station. It was bigger than his old booth, with better equipment, but the principle was the same. People brought him broken things. He fixed them. And in the process, he built bridges between species that had never truly connected before. Princess Lissa visited whenever the Draken delegation came to the station. She was older now, more confident already talking about studying engineering formally. She had started a collection of tools Daniel had given her, each one carefully maintained and stored. One day, a young member of a species Daniel had never met before entered his workshop. The being was small, covered in blue fur, with 6 arms and large, worried eyes. It carried a broken device and was making soft distress sounds. Daniel smiled and gestured to a chair. "Hey there, let me see what we've got." As he examined the broken item, explaining gently what he was doing, Daniel realized something. This was how change happened, not through grand gestures or sweeping declarations, but through small moments of connection. One repair at a time, one act of kindness at a time, one person seeing another person in need and choosing to help. The galaxy was vast and complicated and full of differences, but maybe, just maybe, it could also be fixed, one small piece at a time. And that was something worth working toward,